everyone. My name is Amy. I'm Fiber Arts Amy here and on Instagram. My dog, Freya, it wants to know what's going on because I'm not sitting in my chair the way I usually am. I'm here today to talk about quilting. This is going to be a basically quilting only video. It is my house, so there's going to be stitching all over the walls. But yeah, I'm going to talk about quilting today. I had a lot of fun doing I've only done one quilting video, right? Doing the first one. And wanted to come back and do another one. And specifically, I'm going to talk about handwork. Mostly, almost only handwork today. Because for the last few years, that's what I've been spending the vast majority of my quilting time on. Really a lot of English paper piecing, which is very slow, so I haven't gotten that much done, but I spent a lot of time on it. Also, if you came here from FlossTube, you know I have a million projects, and my English paper piecing and quilting is no different. I've got a million things going on, so it's not like I've stuck to one English paper piecing project. I do have a couple, though, that I'm hoping to have done, if not by the end of this year, hopefully soon after. I've also always loved applique. So I have several applique projects on the go. My goal today is not to show you every single, like, English paper piecing or, you know, applique or handwork project I have going. I don't think I could even manage that because I have stuff everywhere. I'm sitting next to my stitchy chair, which is right here, and then this table back here with a pile of stitchy projects, and there's a knitting bin and a cross stitch bin and stuff everywhere. Anyway, I'm just going to show you some of the things that have been like highest on my radar, things that have been going on in my quilty, mostly handwork life recently. I'm really glad I started doing like quilting only videos. I'm having fun doing this. Feel free to leave comments below. I'm also going to try to answer some questions that I had from last time, and also go over some things. I had some people request to see some fabrics more like closer up and one at a time, so I'll try to remember to do that. I am probably filming this in like groups. There's probably going to be like a set change partway through, because I think I'm going to go, I'm going to keep things all over my house. I've got a selection of downstairs projects to show you, and then I think I'll reset and show you upstairs projects. First thing I wanted to show you, I've shown this before. I don't think I've shown it as an FFO. I've shown the English paper piecing before, but I actually FFO'd it into a pillow. This was a pattern for a sunflower block. It was supposed to be foundation paper pieced, but I saw it and was like, ooh, I'm going to do English paper piecing on that. It's actually like so I sit crisscross applesauce a lot. It's the perfect size to like sit in my lap when I'm crisscross applesauce and be able to put like a design board on. And I happen to have a design board right behind me, but I don't have a ton of these. I know some people do. I'm just as likely to have like one of my kids' board books to like put in my lap if I need like a flat and hard surface for like gluing, or for English paper piecing gluing or something like that. Anyway, I really like how my pillow turned out. This was definitely the hardest thing I've ever English paper pieced. And I just took the foundation paper piece pattern and cut the pieces up and then went at it like English paper piecing. But there were a lot of really skinny angles, especially in the middle there. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how to do the edges, because I initially messed up and didn't. Some of my seam allowances along the edge were folded over and sewn. So like tacked down with stitches so that I couldn't then fold it out and trim it to sew it into something. That was a good lesson to learn. Anyway, I like my little pillow. It's like super full and really squishy. I really like it. All right, so that's an FFO. Something, I have the book here. I wish I had the book, but I don't. So this is an applique project that I haven't touched in years, like more than a decade, years, and it needs to be done. I wish I had the book. I'm sorry, I don't have it with me. If you want to know the name of the book, tell me, and I'll make sure that and I'll try to put it in the comments anyway, or in the show description anyway, where this pattern came from. But let me make sure I'm doing this right. So this is going to be a Christmas quilt. So the way the quilts, this does not look exciting so far. So this ends up looking like, these are strands of like bunting with stockings hanging off of them and other various Christmas ornaments. But so far all I've done is do two of like the tree branch, I think they're tree branches, tree trunks, and the like greenery kind of swag hanging. So this quilt, when it's done, basically has this at the top. It's got this little panel at the top with a whole bunch of stuff appliqued to it. And then this part's all done. And then just this panel of green patchwork at the bottom. So very explicitly a Christmas quilt. I need to get it done. This is ridiculous. I really want to finish it. It's not actually that much work. I just need to sit down and do it. This is high on my radar. I would love to actually have this done. Like quilted and done before Christmas this year. Let me fold this back up. I have a bag with all my fabric. This was like pre-project bag days. I've got my handy Ziploc. I mean, I've got everything in here, all the fabrics. I've got all the templates. There's like stars and stockings and Christmas like ball ornaments and all these little things. All those are cut out and ready to use. I've got thread. I think this was part of a class. These days I tend to just use the YLI silk thread, and if I don't have like a matching color, I just use the like taupe to just applique everything. It's very invisible and you can't see it. My teacher used to suggest we buy Metler threads in like colors to match the applique pieces. So I've got a ton of Metler threads in like greens and reds and a little bit of gold to do the applique. I just need to do it. So in theory, you guys are going to start seeing this every quilting episode that I do, every quilt chat that I do. Hopefully you guys are going to start seeing this project and seeing progress on the applique. Sorry for the crinkle. That really needs to get done. All right, some other stuff I wanted to show. This is very wrinkly and uninspiring looking so far. So I don't know if they still do this. For a while there, you could buy Tulip Pink and I think K Facet, maybe a couple other Free Spirit designers. You could buy pre-cut hexies. Now they're pretty big hexies. I don't remember the exact size. I ended up deciding they were. I can look it up if anybody really wants to know. But these were already cut into a hexagon shape. So I just had to buy papers that would fit it. And what I'm doing, I just had one of those pre-cuts. What I'm doing, I have them all glue basted to the paper. I'm sewing them together, just making like a piece of sewn fabric with them that I'm then going to cut up to make a bag. So that's what, a bag of my own design. I like really simple tote bags, so that's what I'll do with this. And I've just been, every once in a while I'll pick this up and sew a few more hexies on. This, what was this collection? I think this was Slow and Steady. It's the tortoise and the hare. I think she called this Slow and Steady. I love Tulip Pink fabrics. They're just amazing. Absolutely love them. So that's something handwork wise that gets worked on. All right, this, I don't have the template here. I'm not sure where it is. Okay, this is a quilt as you go project. So I got the template for this from Missouri Star Quilt Company, although you don't really have to buy a fancy template to do this. You could do this any way you cut hexies of different sizes. But the template set I got from Missouri Star has 2 different size hexagons in it. So what you do, and this is quilt as you go, so when I'm done with it, I'm done. No extra quilting required. What you do is you cut the small hexagon shape out of fabric. I use charm packs. I have 4 charm packs that I cut up into hexagons. And this is part of why I love this project. This is all the excess batting scraps. This is what I've been doing with my batting scraps. You use the smaller hexagon template, and if I remember, I'll try to link this product in the description box below. But you cut your batting and whatever you want on the front of your hexies, which again, I used 4 charm packs and cut them all up in the smaller hexagon shape. And then you cut, there's a larger hexagon shape that you cut, trying to get one out, your backing square. So once you have them all cut, so see, they're different sizes, you layer, I'm trying to do this in the camera, you layer a batting square and you layer a front square, it's a hexagon. You layer the backing, the batting, and the front, and then you just fold over the sides. You know, you fold it once and then again. You should have about a 1/4 inch there, and you just sew like an applique stitch all the way around the edge, and you end up with units that look like this, which all on its own, it's perfect size for like a mug rug or something if you wanted to, or you can sew them together. So this is the beginning of this is going to be a quilt, like a lap quilt. Although before I sewed on the 4th row, I was looking at it when it just had the 3 rows of hexies, thinking it would make a great table runner. So there might be some table runners in my future, like if you just had 1 charm pack. Yeah, anyway, I'm loving how this is turning out. It's very fun. It's very relaxing to work on. Oh, I think I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. For those of you with headphones, hopefully I gave you enough warning. Sorry, I can't control my sneezes. There's lots of different things you can do with this. You don't have to use all one color for the background. I picked this blue. I don't know what blue it is. I picked this lovely blue. It's like a little bit tealy, like not quite a true blue. It's got like a little bit of green in it that I really like. So my back is gonna look like this. You can just see the seams. But you can also do, like, you can use different fabrics or like do a planned pattern or whatever you want. If you go to Missouri Star Quilt Company's YouTube channel, they do have a really good video on this template set and what all the kind of different looks you can get from your end product by working on it. I hate having all those little scraps of batting and not knowing what to do with them. Sometimes I go for table runners, but I don't do a ton of table runners. I love this, and it's so portable. It's really, really portable. I just keep everything in this bag, which I got off of Etsy from Home Dry Goods. I love this bag. Everything fits in here. And I'll share another little fun tip. So this is a Band-Aid container. There are these Band-Aids. The brand is Welly, W-E-L-L-Y. they have, their Band-Aids are like all these fun designs, and they come in these great little metal containers. When we're done with the Band-Aids, I turn them into little, I turn them into little sewing kits. My thimble went flying. I actually glued a really small pincushion I had made into there to keep it in place. I've got scissors. I've got my thread that I'm using. I picked thread to match the backing fabric, and a waxer that I had made. There's also a thing of needles in there, and my thimble. And everything fits in here. It's like super secure and nice. And it was just, I don't know, it was fun to make. I have more of these. Sometimes I'll put a needle minder in there. It'll stick to the lid. Do I have one in here? I do have one in here. Whoop. I've got a needle minder stuck to the lid, so I can just set my needle there if I want to. While we're here and talking about it, I may as well say too, in case any of you are curious, these are the needles that I use almost all the time, unless I have something else handy, for English paper piecing and applique and everything. They are Tulip brand applique needles, number 10, Big I. The Big I is important. And I did not discover these. Tulip Pink, I got this from listening to Tulip Pink. This is what she uses. And you can Google, there's several shops that carry them. Fat Quarter Shop is one of them. So oftentimes, like if I'm placing an order at Fat Quarter Shop and I'm not quite at the, free shipping, I will just throw in a pack or two of needles to get myself to the free shipping limit, because I know I'm going to use them. Like they're just a, necessity. And I've had some break, definitely, but I don't feel like they break that often. They definitely will like develop like a curve or bend in them if I've been using one for quite a while, and eventually they'll snap, but it takes a long time. I'm pretty pleased with them. Okay, what's next? All right, I'm going to show this because I haven't started it yet, but I'm going to show it. I've been very much in the mood to like up my skills lately, like to learn new things. And my quilty bug has been like really, really strong, and I've just been wanting to experiment and try new and different things, and there. So this is one of the things that I'm going to do. I have several patterns, what is it called? From Crabapple Hill Studio. I have lots of them, actually. And I haven't done one because, like, just doing the coloring, I've never done this before. Somehow the coloring and everything is intimidating. I've done embroidery, but only a little. I wouldn't consider myself proficient at all, right? I've just done a little bit of embroidery. I went ahead and got this pattern kitted up here recently, and this is on my short list of things I need to get started. I just need to grab a background fabric. I've got tons around here, and get it traced and get started. I have the colored pencils to do it with. I have like the finishing. I've never done this before. There's like a finishing wash thing that you have to put over the color. I went ahead and got the Cosmo floss. I know I could pick my own colors and probably will in the future. But I kind of wanted to make sure I was just following instructions this time and just learning as I went. Kind of like if you go to like a class at a quilt shop, typically you're going to buy your materials at the quilt shop, right? You're going to like spend your money there. Well, it's not even about like spending your money, but like you make sure you have exactly what's called for. That's kind of what's going on. I got the Pigma pens, floss, and I just need to sit down and find a time to trace this. I might get that done this week. I think this week I'm going to be home. Lately, like our weeks have just been so busy lately with like doctor's appointments and kids sick and all kinds of stuff going on. But I think I'm actually gonna be home some. All right, I'll show this one next. This is something I just picked up not too long ago. I think I said in my last video, or maybe I've said it in floss tubes before. I tend not to like, I certainly don't do one quilt like start to finish, like all in a row. I tend to be in the mood for different tasks related to quilting. Like I might be in the mood to cut, or I might be in the mood to pick out fabric, or I might be in the mood to sew or press, or well, I'm not usually in the mood to press, but if my iron comes out, I usually do like a ton of pressing all at once. Anyway, I'm in the mood for a certain task. I was at my cabin not that long ago, and I just wanted to cut something. And I had this kit. I actually bought this. This is from Paper Pieces, which is where some people have asked. Paperpieces.com is where I usually get my paper piecing papers, and if I'm using them, templates and whatnot. This was a kit I had bought kind of earlier on in my English paper piecing life. I was much more likely to buy a kit back then because easier for me, right? I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, so buy a kit. And I think this was like on clearance. Anyway, it's gonna be beautiful though. I was in the mood to cut, so I started cutting some fabrics for it. Anyway, and I just started sewing together. This has since become like a travel piece. I've taken it to, I'm not very far on it. There are these, ooh, if you can see, like larger hexagons all through the center, and they're separated by little triangles. It's hard to see because these fabrics are so distracting. But dropping things. I just got started with some of the hexagons, and I love this fabric in particular. And I don't have tons of fabric, so there's not really any fussy cutting going on here because they gave you basically the fabric quantity you need, not the fabric quantity you need if you're fussy cutting, but that's okay. This is like, I took this to swim last week. I took it to horseback riding, and it's just simple and easy, and I can just, you know, sew a couple of seams while I'm sitting there waiting on people. This is the border fabric with a big floral, which is beautiful. It came in this handy little plastic bag, which is largely why I went to horseback riding. If any of you have ever spent time in a horse barn, they are not the cleanest of places. Even like a really clean barn, there's like dust and dirt everywhere. So I have everything I need in here, and I can just grab it on my way out the door. And it's real simple, like there's not a lot of thinking to the pattern or anything. I don't need to make decisions. I've got a lot of extra pieces cut, so I can just sew some up while I'm sitting and waiting. Okay, I'm doing fine on time. All right, so this is actually kind of big. This has also been a travel project. I have taken this to, I've done this at home some too, but it's traveled with us. I work on this sometimes in front of the TV, and I've taken this to Redstone Glen. Some of you, especially if you watch Floss Tubes, you may have heard me talk about Redstone Glen before. It's a place I go to take fiber arts classes, so like spinning, weaving, dyeing, that sort of thing. This makes a great travel project for, you know, when you're going away for a long weekend or for several days, because there's no pattern to it. Like these are just large hexies. I think they're 2.5 inch, maybe. 2.5 inch, 2.25 inch, something like that. I had a fat quarter bundle. I should be telling you fabrics, and I totally haven't been telling you a lot of these fabrics. My apologies. I don't know who the designer is of this, but I had this fat quarter bundle of like patriotic fabrics, and I wanted a little more color in there than just the red, white, and blue. So I grabbed some, I have a small stash of Lori Holt fabrics, and I just grabbed some Lori Holts and cut a few hexagons of those as well. But I actually sat there while we were watching Loki, while I was watching it with my husband, and just cut the fat quarter bundle up into hexagons. The only fabrics I fussy cut from the bundle were like these. There's some characters on some of them. And I intentionally made sure that when I had fussy cut characters, that they're pointing in different directions, like that we have a different up side for each of them, because I don't want the quilt to be like directional when we're done. Anyway, I just sew every once in a while. Usually when I'm like, I don't know what to work on, this is what I work on. I will just, it's just so mindless. I'm sewing rows and then attaching the rows, oh my goodness, to the quilt. So yeah, that's fun when it's done. And it's just gonna be like a fun, you know, throw on the couch, curl up in it kind of quilt. There's a lot going on here. So I have been loving working on this so much that I decided I wanted to make another one with fabrics that were a little more my style. Also, please tell me I'm not the only one that's done this. Okay, so during the pandemic, I definitely discovered pre-ordering fabrics. Yeah. So, there's a, well, I'm wearing their shirt. Happy Little Stitch Shop. I'm in their Stitching with Lori club. Happy Little Stitch Shop I discovered during the pandemic, and I love them. And they, often do new release parties. So she has a really active, Angela's the owner, she has a really active YouTube channel. She usually does 2 live streams a week, one for FlossTube and one for quilting. And several times a year she will do a new release party. Sometimes it's just for Moda, and just like sometimes she separates Moda and Riley Blake, sometimes she does them together, but she'll show you the collections and what's coming. And you can tell her, like, she does it live, and you can tell her, like, I want to be able to order this or this or this. And then she puts the things that you want to be able to order up on her website, and you can pre-order them. Fat Quarter Shop also allows you to pre-order certain collections. She doesn't as consistently do, like, I'm going to show you what's coming video that I can tell, as far as I can tell, although she does it sometimes. Anyway. I had so much fun doing this quilt that I decided I wanted to do one with Fig Tree. Oh, the whole purpose of the pre-ordering, I accidentally pre-ordered more. What is this collection called? Cinnamon and Cream. This was a recent collection from Fig Tree called Cinnamon and Cream, I think. Pretty sure it was Cinnamon and Cream. It's beautiful. This is, like, to me, like, classic Fig Tree. I love it. Some more of their fabrics. More. I totally ordered way too much of it. And I was like, what am I going to do with the extra fat quarter bundle? Because I had apparently ordered 2 fat quarter bundles. Good job, Amy. Anyway, I decided I'm going to make, just like I'm doing the more patriotic one, I'm just going to do hexies. I haven't sewn any of them together yet, but I cut the fat quarter bundle into hexagons, and I've got a bunch of them on there. I grabbed our selection so that I can start sewing if I want to. And the way I approach things like this, honestly, is that I'll just sew, because I don't know how big this is going to get. I will sew until I'm like a line of hexagons until I'm like, yeah, that's big enough. And then I'll attach another one and another one until we get some height to it. And then I'll start building on either side until I feel like we've reached the width I want, and then I'll keep building for the height. That's how I approach it. So very organically comes together. And I think it's going to be beautiful. So no sewing on this one yet. But I've got all big pack of hexagons in here. The papers. And I've got all the fabrics cut up and ready to go. And all I need, I have a EPP case that has like everything you need in it, like needles, scissors, all that. I could always grab any one of these project bags and my like EPP travel case and be out the door with it wherever I want to go. I've been keeping this in. This is one of those Lori Holt bags. She did like a bag panel that you could then cut up and turn into bags. And they're like pretty roomy, and I did mine without a lining. I'm finding them very useful for storing English paper piecing. Sorry if that bang came across really loud on camera. Here's another EPP project that's in its infantile stages. So, oh, you're not gonna be able to see. If you're interested in English paper piecing, I would totally check out paperpieces.com if you haven't already. So they sell individual pieces, like you can go on there and buy hexagons in like a million different sizes, and squares and rectangles and all kinds of shapes and kites and shapes I didn't even realize like existed until I started looking at their site. You can also buy blocks, which I love. You can just buy individual blocks, and you can usually buy a small pack, a large pack, or a bulk pack. So depending on the size of the block, the small pack usually will cover you for anywhere from like 1 to 4 blocks-ish. A large pack, you're gonna have, I don't know, maybe 4 to a dozen blocks in there, and then a bulk pack, you might have a lot more blocks that you can make. I love that you can do that you can like get exactly what you want. I was interested in doing a Storm at Sea quilt via English paper piecing. I like easy piecing on the sewing machine. If it's gonna be more complex, I just prefer hand sewing it. I prefer English paper piecing. I find it relaxing and really enjoyable. So anyway, I decided to go ahead. I'd always wanted to do a Storm at Sea quilt, but had never jumped on it. I decided to go ahead and I'm gonna English paper piece one. And also in recent years, I have become a huge, huge lover of Tilda fabrics. I love Tilda fabrics. This is one of her chambrays, but her solids and her chambrays, they just feel amazing. Oh, Maggie's messaging me. For those of you who are aware of my floss tube and the Queen City Stitch Retreat, I just had a message pop up from Maggie. So anyway, these are the fabrics that I've chosen. I didn't want to do it scrappy. I want to do it not scrappy. Words. Did I say what today is? Today is a Monday. That's part of my issue. Let's see. 24th. Monday the 24th. So anyway, these are the fabrics. They're all Tilda fabrics that I'm going to use. Oh, what was the name of her collection? I don't remember. I bought extra of this so I could fussy cut these shells. I haven't sewn anything together yet, but I have cut two blocks. So the these shells are going to be at the center of the large square there, and we'll see how it goes. This might end up being a baby quilt for grandbabies, or it might keep growing. That's one of like the things I love about English paper piecing. Like, I feel like I don't have to plan the whole thing out before I get started. I can just go little by little, and if I feel like I'm done with something, I can just stop. I can make things as big or as little as I want. I really enjoy the process. I enjoy picking fabrics as I go. My favorite part probably of any of it, other than finishing the quilt, is picking the fabrics. Oh! My apologies. I'm gonna move you again. You'd think I'd never filmed a video before. My favorite part is picking the fabrics, and I love doing that as I go through an English paper piecing project. Like if you're doing grandmother's flower garden, being able to like do one flower at a time. And like, I don't plan out all the flowers before I start sewing. I pick one set for a flower and I sew it and I love it. And I get that inspiration burst. And then I get to go design a new flower and do that one. And it's this like constant feeding that like inspiration that I know a lot of us really love and thrive off of. So anyway, that's part of what I love about it. I'll show this on floss tube. I recently just finished stitching this bag. You can get these bags from Fat Quarter Shop, and this is a, I was gonna say Butternut Road. It is not Butternut Road. Shepherd's Bush pattern. There's little, it's queen bee. It's got little bee charms and buttons and things on it, and I have become obsessed with stitching these bags. Don't know why. I did one of them and fell in love. Okay, so speaking of how I love to kind of design as I go, this, and I'll have to look up the information, this I got started on an Instagram. I want to say the pattern is by Zoe Mason, maybe? Who's got an awesome Instagram feed. She designed, and by designed I mostly mean like she did the math. So you know how much fabric you need and stuff, which is invaluable. She is doing a trip around, a Hexi EPP trip around the world quilt along this year. Now I am behind, but I'm very proud of where I am. I've been working on this pretty consistently and I love it. I would consider this one of my focus projects. So I've shown you a lot already. Not all of that stuff gets, like a lot of those projects are kind of in the background. I might pick them up here or there, but they're still in the background. They don't get touched consistently. This gets touched very consistently. I still have to sew some of these together. But I'm on how many rounds? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm on round 8. Now, of course, the rounds get bigger. So they get more time consuming as you go. But I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the way it's coming out. And I don't decide which fabric's coming next, usually until I'm at this stage where I'm finishing sewing the hexagons together. And not everybody does it this way, but I do. I just sew all the way around the edge, attach all the hexagons, and then I go back and sew up in between each hexagon, and I love it. And I'm fussy cutting everything in this quilt to, I'm not much of a fussy cutter usually with my English paper piecing, but I have been fussy cutting the heck out of this. This is the fabric that's going to come next. I am reusing fabrics in it. So this fabric was also in the center. And it's going to be the next round. So the way this quilt came to be was I'm going to try to pull the fabrics for you. I had bought, I think on clearance ages ago. I need to stop. I'm a sucker for sales. If something's on sale, I'm like, oh, it's a good deal, get it. I actually am doing better at not buying things just because they're on sale. But I had these fabrics. I think I had 2 yards of each. What's it called? Petite. It's called Petite. A Wishwell collection. I do love the fabric. So these are little birds. They're all like pets. So those are birds. These are bunnies. These are kitties. Kitties in hexagons. I mean, how much more perfect can you get? And fish. So I don't know why I don't have any puppies in there. I had these fabrics that I didn't know what to do with. And then this quilt came along and I was like, ooh, score. Let's use, these would be perfect for fussy cutting, especially the bird print and the cat print, I think. So I decided to use these and then build off of that with my stash. So, oh, there's so much stuff in here. So I picked other fabrics for my stash, and I wanted to keep everything kind of soft, like light to medium toned. The pink in here I honestly debated about. I have a huge, This was supposed to be the backing for something, but I hate piecing my backings, so I never used it. The pink in here is a little bright. I'm not sure if that was the best decision, but I think it'll look good at the end. I just like all really soft fabrics, things I could fussy cut. Okay, I bought the mushrooms in like 3 colors because those are the cutest little mushrooms I've ever seen. In some of these, I only have enough to do some of the smaller rounds, either at the beginning or at the end when you start just having like short diagonals. But others, I have tons of yardage and can do much more with them. This was used, this is the second round I think I did. So, that means some of these have already been used. I just pulled mostly from my stash, more mushrooms. So kind of scrappy, but all kind of similar color tones. I'm trying just to not put the same color next to itself, if that makes sense. So this is a pink, I wouldn't do a pink next. I'm gonna do the like light yellow in the center. I'm loving working on this. It's very soothing, just fun, relaxing sewing time. Absolutely love it. Now let's see if I can get all the fabric back in the bag. I do tend to use bags, like tote bags, to sort of keep fabrics that are meant for a specific project, like all together, just to try to stay organized. I also, is there a tag? I wanted to show this. This is the cutest little thing in the world. It's so stinking cute. There's no like tag showing me who made it. I did not make this. There's a frame in here. If anybody wants to know, tell me and I will go back through my purchase history on Etsy. I love this little guy. It's just so cute. This is an Acufactum fabric. I think it's a German manufacturer. I've also fallen in love with their fabrics during the pandemic. But I keep this here at my sewing spot / stitchy spot. And I usually use it when I'm doing this trip around the world quilt. It's just got everything I need, like needles, my thimbles in there, my thread. It's got everything I need. While we're talking, in case any of you are interested, this is one of my favorite threads to use for EPP. This is Saju gloving thread. It's 100% cotton. It's pre-waxed. I want to say it's 50 weight, although I'm not positive about that. And I don't have my readers on, so I can't read the label. It comes in a bunch of colors, and it's pre-waxed, and I love it. But it's also pretty pricey. I also love YLI. Their hand quilting thread is pre-waxed. Or I do use waxers. I do wax my sewing thread. I feel like it helps a lot. I will use regular YLI. My favorite thread, like for everything, is YLI machine sewing thread. It's the 100% cotton or machine quilting thread. It's 100% cotton. I want to say it's 50 weight, might be 40 weight. And I'll just run it through a waxer before sewing with it. I love those threads. I do try to keep everything 100% cotton. That's as much for environmental reasons, quite honestly, as like purist quilter reasons. I just try to keep plastic out of my life as much as I can. If you're wondering what I mean by a waxer, I make these. I mean, you can buy them, but they're simple to make too. I just have some silicone like candy molds, and you just buy beeswax and melt it and pour it into the molds. So I do use a waxer if my thread isn't already waxed. So I love my little sewing case. I also have, I may as well show you a quilting video. I have these are honeycombs, 1-inch honeycombs. I have, this was a, what was it? Charm pack, I think. I used some of the squares from the charm pack for something else. And then I decided to cut these up and make these little 1-inch honeycombs from them. And I've got a couple sewn together in here somewhere, but they will become fabric for a bag. Not like a whole quilt out of those. So I could always just grab this if I was going somewhere and wanted something to sew as well. Okay. Next. So let me see if there's a picture in here. I don't know if I have like the cover picture. There's going to be crinkling, my apologies. All right, well, this is gonna have to do. I'm gonna show you, this is like a mock-up of the quilt, but nothing you could copy. So this is a free pattern from Tilda's World. If you go to, I believe the website is just tildasworld.com. She has a ton of free, really awesome quilt patterns. I love them. She used to publish books, but in the last few years, she's been releasing all of her patterns for free. If you want her fabric, you still need to source her fabric, but you don't need to use her fabric if you don't want to. Kelly from Pages and Stitches, which is Pages 3 Stitches, and I'll link her below. She's got a floss tube and quilting videos. She has finished this quilt, and it's stunning. I love it so much. But these are all, I believe, 1.5-inch squares cut 2 inches. And I saw hers and just fell in love and really wanted to do it, but also really didn't want to sit at the machine that much. So I was like, English paper piecing. That's how we're gonna do it. So my plan is to English paper piece this quilt. I did buy a kit because sometimes I'm in the mood to do my own thing. Sometimes I'm in the mood to just have somebody send me what I need. So I have a kit, there's a lot more here, but I have a kit. They're all very helpfully labeled, so I know which color is which. And I have very slowly been working on cutting these. Let me see. I got a couple boxes here to keep the pieces in. Oh, here we go. I don't have anything glue basted yet. But here is my stack of squares that I have cut. These are my scraps so far. I'm gonna have the best scraps for doing this quilt. I'm very excited for the scraps. Is that like weird? Or do y'all relate? Like looking at my scraps, just being, oh, this is gonna be awesome. So this is definitely slow going to cut. The reason why it's so slow going to cut for me, I am using a rotary cutter to cut them. The quilt kit is designed to have 1/4-inch seams. When I English paper piece, I prefer to have closer to 3/8 of an inch seam. The reason for that, aside from the fact that Tula Pink says so, and she kind of is like the English paper piecing goddess, so I want to do what she says. I will do it with 1/4-inch seams. I have done it with 1/4-inch seams, but the problem is if your hexagon is off from being centered even like a little bit, your 1/4-inch seam can very quickly become a 3/8 inch or even, wait. Yeah. No, because 2/8 is a 1/4. It can become an 1/8 of an inch seam really fast. Or 3/16, I think is what I was trying to say. So when I'm cutting from the kit, my dog's on the move. When I'm cutting from the kit, every fabric I pull, I need to stop and be like, okay, like, and measure it and do the math and try to figure out, do I have enough room to cut these with a 3/8 inch seam allowance? Why are you whimpering? Do I have enough to do a 3/8 seam allowance, or do I need to cut the 1/4-inch seam allowance? Because when I have room, when the piece of fabric is big enough, I'm doing the 3/8 inch. If it's not big enough, I'm going with 1/4 of an inch. But I'm doing it whatever possible. So it's just like a little more mental, you know, gymnastics to cut that out. So I don't, and it's slow because they're small pieces. So I'm still in the cutting stage, and maybe for some time. That, however, did not stop me. Okay, Freya, can you lay down? I'm gonna have to pull up a picture of this for you. I bought another kit. Another Tilda kit that, I bought it's, kind of like a part 2 to that one. You're okay. Come on. This is, so she came out with this one, the flower vase embroidery kit. And I want to do the same thing with that one. So I want to do both of these. And so, Freya, can you scooch? Again, you can download the fabric, or the pattern for free. I ordered a quilt kit with all the Tilda fabrics. I think the Tilda solids feel amazing. They're like finer than a typical quilting cotton. They're not like a lawn. They're not like a, you know, a Liberty of London lawn, but they're really nice. They feel great. So I ordered a kit for that one as well, and that will just sit until I get the other one done, or close to done. Also, I may as well plug them. This is a shop. It's called Got Quilts. It's just gotquilts.com. I order a lot of Tilda stuff from them. They are a Tilda centered shop. I don't know if they're online only. They also do long arming, which I haven't used their long arming services. But they always have all the Tilda kits like up for pre-order, and they take other really cool quilts and kit them up in Tilda fabrics. My dog is nose punching my stand. My apologies. Can you give me 1 minute? 1 minute. So anyway, those are on the back burner too. Those are going to get done at some point. Kelly's, the flower bouquet one, the Tilda one she did, was just beyond stunning. That's really exciting me. I'm going to pause while I walk my dog and clean up and get a few more things, and I'll be back. Okay, before I move upstairs, I had some requests. Thank you all who watched my first video and who commented, my first quilting video, and commented and stuff. That was really fun. But I had a request to show the fabrics. I went through some of them briefly. Sorry, I need to grab a pattern, I realized. Last time, there we go. I had a request to show more of them in more detail, so I'm going to do that. I have this quilt pattern. I'm going somewhere with this. I have this quilt pattern called Chasing Zinnias. I got it from an Etsy shop. If you need to know where I got it, just message me or comment and I'll look it up. I want to say a Sweet Girl Fabric Studio. I've used that Etsy shop a lot. But I got this quilt pattern and I want to do it. It's beautiful. There's a lot of applique in here. And I think it's stunning, but I love the just kind of like almost low volume look of it. So I very much had this quilt in mind when I went on this quilt shopping trip last month. And I was trying to get mostly the sorts of fabrics that would look good in there. I was really trying to fill out the low volume kind of section of my stash. Anyway, so these are the fabrics I got. I know this is from a line called Sacramento, because I just actually ordered more of it. I have a son who loves chickens and roosters, and my son just designed a quilt for me to make for him. So he wants this as one of the background fabrics, so I ordered more. I had a blast. I almost never get to go to a quilt shop in person, and yeah, I had this day where I just got to go to a quilt shop and go crazy. It doesn't, like, when I do actually manage to get to a quilt shop, I don't feel guilty about spending money because I almost never get to go. So I was trying to get softer and low volume prints, things that were smaller scale, because I always gravitate to like the big, beautiful, large scale hero prints, and then it's hard to make a quilt out of those, especially quilts of tiny pieces. I had a blast, and I don't know that all of these are going to end up in this quilt, and I'm sure I will grab other fabrics from my stash to go in it as well. But my stash is, these are all half-yard cuts. My stash is lacking in those sorts of fabrics. I have lots of hero prints. The last few years I've been doing a better job getting like backgrounds and neutrals, but things that are kind of, you know, medium tone, have a little bit going on but not too much, I'm lacking. This is a stronger color, but I still thought might end up fitting in really well. And it was just too beautiful to pass up. I think a couple of these have already been taken from this stack. My son took a couple for his quilt that we were planning. Knitting sheep and a spinning wheel. That's awesome. Because I'm a spinner. Some William Morris prints. I learned, so normally my husband and I have very similar tastes. I guess we still do. But when I was going through the fabrics with him, because I do have the sort of husband who wants to see everything that I got. Like, and he's excited. He wants to see what I'm going to do with it. I learned my husband apparently really doesn't care for William Morris. At least on fabric. And that surprised the heck out of me. Because we both very much like Art Nouveau, kind of in that era and stuff. He likes it in architecture. But, yeah, he was not impressed by the fabrics. Oh, my pupper's back. Sweetie, you're going to have to lay down. Come here. Come here. Come. Come. Come here. She really wants us to be laying down somewhere and cuddling, and not me talking into the television. Or into the television, into my phone. Some of these, you might recognize I got them in, you know, more than one colorway. I had so much fun. The ladies were like laughing at me. I just kept grabbing more bolts. Like, half yard. Okay, Little Red Riding Hood. I could not resist. She's adorable. This one's a little bit bolder in its coloring, but those flowers I thought would make really good fussy cutting. Acorns, I couldn't resist. I tend not to buy enough yellows and oranges in particular. Pinks and reds to some extent too, but yellows and oranges are the... Yellow is the top. Yellow is the one that I don't get. I just never buy yellow. And so I make a concerted effort when I see a yellow that I think is pretty to get it, because I need it sometimes. I love these apples. I love apples. And there's even, I didn't even notice this when I bought it. There's little mice. Like the mice have been nibbling the apples. I think they're cute. I see my camera adjusting the color as I keep holding these up. On the last video, I said this was William Morris. It absolutely is not. Oh my god, what is it? Amy? Nope. Is it Amy? What is her name? Anna Griffin. There we go. This is an Anna Griffin. Pink That's me trying to remember to get some pink. Look at these butterflies. Butterflies or moths, not sure which. Those are so beautiful. You guys enjoying just watching me go through fabric? You probably are. If you if you want to watch this quilting video, you probably are. I loved this. This is gonna make an awesome like blender. Now I look at that and I see stacked stones, like stacked river stones. My husband saw it and he saw like looking through a microscope, like looking at cells. Which is funny because I'm the chemist and he's a philosopher. And he saw the cells. The trees were pretty. This was the one fabric that I bought that was absolutely not what I went in for. Like there's no argument you could make that this is, you know, a medium toned or like low volume fabric, but I love it so much. So that made it in. And then I got a slightly bigger cut of this. This. And I got an even bigger cut of this. I think I got like 3 yards of this because I love it. I less and less want to use plain white like as backgrounds. I like there to be some interest in fabric usually. So I love this. And I love it so much that it's from the same collection as the roosters that I had to order to do my son's quilt. I ordered some more and I got some more of the pink while I was at it. And then since that fabric trip, I've just added a couple other fabrics from my stash kind of to this grouping that I'm gonna start, like this will be my starting place to pull for that quilt pattern. And I actually just finished some table runners yesterday where I used this as the backing. So that's gonna go with it as well. Okay, I'm gonna clean this mess up and I'm gonna move camera upstairs, which is where a lot of my handwork takes place. Okay, I'm back. You guys get like the best views of my house. I'm sitting on the floor, which is why it looks like blank wall, because there's a Mirabilia up there. There's a Marilyn Levitt emblem piece my mom stitched in our hallway. Bags of cred for Goodwill in the hall. But I have a bunch of my handwork. Figured this was better than the bed. I have a bunch of my handwork and like English paper piecing and applique spread around me. So I'm gonna start with my Marquise quilt kit from Tula Pink. You might be able to find this on the secondary market. I don't know, but this is quite old and not really how her English paper piecing projects come out these days. But I've been working on this, I don't know, since some point in the pandemic. I'm really hoping to get it done this year. I'm gonna work on it later this morning. Let me scoot back and try to show you more of it. It's more than half done at this point. There's 4 rows of diamonds. I can't see what you're seeing. There's 4 rows of diamonds. I've got 2 of them done and a really good start on number 3. And I've got that border there between 2 and 3, like at least halfway done. So, yeah, I'm maybe 3/5 of the way done or something like that. 4/7. I'm working on, but I love it. I'm already proud of it. I'm gonna be so proud when this is done. And I will get this long-armed. One day I will hand quilt a English paper piece quilt, but that's not going to be any day soon. So this is one of my focuses. I have had a lot of comments about sort of the style of my quilts. Most of the quilts I have completed are relatively simple. Most of them. You haven't seen some of the more complicated quilts that I've finished because they're on beds, and I haven't done like a tour of like the bed quilts yet. A lot of the quilts that I have in progress are more complicated and more time consuming, and that is simply because of my lifestyle at the moment. Quilts where you have to really pay attention to what you're doing, that maybe have a million pieces, and you have to stay organized and keep track of things, those are still, they have been very hard for me to do and still can be pretty hard because of my kids. I love my kids and I wouldn't change it for anything. But the reality is the way I have managed to do so much quilting over the last dozen or so years of having little people in the house is by keeping it very simple. Working off just a simple patchwork pattern that I don't have to memorize or keep track of anything, that even quilts that you can improvise and make decisions as you go. That's how I've managed to continue my craft with children in the house. And I would encourage anybody else in that situation to do the same thing. You know, it can get very frustrating if you feel like you, as a parent, or I'm sure any situation where you have something pulling your time away, if you feel like you can't do the thing you love because of some other component of your life, that can get really frustrating really fast. So as best you can, and I know it's not always easy, you just have to figure out ways maybe to change your expectations and maybe to accommodate like your new circumstance. So for me, that was moving away from the more complicated quilts that required just a lot more mental focus and energy, and moving towards the much simpler, simple, basic patchwork quilts. I can get those done with little people interrupting me every 2 seconds. I have done more quilts than I could count where my kids are picking the fabrics for me. You know, they're handing me the next square they want to go on, or they're handing me the next strip that they want to go on. But it means I get to stay quilting, and my kids are being enriched, and they're loving it and spending time with me. And so, anyway, I'll move on. But that's part of the reason why most of my more complicated quilts are still in progress, and most of my completed quilts are very simple. That and the fact that I love simple patchwork. I have no bad feelings about simple patchwork at all. Anyway, yeah, I love just like basic charm square quilts are awesome as far as I'm concerned. So that's my Marquise quilt kit. I'm going to show you the other English paper piecing focus that I have right now. So the Marquise in this one would be like 1 and 2. I have a bin. These were on clearance at Target recently. These are backgrounds that I need to cut for this quilt. So this is the grandmother's flower garden that I am doing with my daughter. So, and it is growing. It is where's up? It is definitely approaching its outer limits, if that makes sense. Where are they? Where are my... Oh my goodness gracious. I don't know what in... Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry. Confusion. So, I have been doing this with my daughter. She's done a little bit of the sewing in it, just a little bit. I don't like ask her to do sewing, but if she's like, oh, can I help? She's actually really good at it, but in very small spurts, like for just a couple minutes at a time. But her stitches are like very neat and even and close together and stuff. I was very impressed. So this is something my daughter and I started putting together during the pandemic with my scraps. I've got more scraps than I care to admit in this house, and like leftover charm squares and all kinds of stuff. And I bought a AccuQuilt, the thing with the die cutter for your fabric. I bought the mini one, at some point in the pandemic when they came out with English paper piecing, like, blocks. And my kids love it. They will cut fabric for me all day long on that thing. So my daughter in particular had a ton of fun cutting most of these fabrics for me, and she does a lot of the putting together of like which fabric should go with what. Now, I didn't plan this out great. If you ever look at a grandmother's flower garden quilt, there's always like a border of hexagons, a border of hexagons in between the flowers, because the flowers, they like tessellate like this. They all nest into each other, but you don't get like a nice neat edge that way. So I have kind of just, the edge is going to have to be bumpy, uneven. I've decided that this is going to be my top edge of flower. I'm trying to keep that one from flopping over. This is going to be my top edge of flowers, and what I'm going to do is cut, with my daughter's help, background and neutral scraps, and I'm going to do just a background of those like white and off-white fabrics all the way around the edge to even it up. You know what I mean? To like make it a squared quilt. I mean, you still have to like cut a little bit, but mostly, you know, it's just, it'll make it even on the edge. So I've kind of defined my top edge up here. I put safety pins in them to kind of be able to remember that that's my top edge. And now I just need to work down and along the sides, kind of evening everything up, and decide if I want to make it any larger. And then I can start putting in the white around, or the backgrounds around the edge. It'll be like a border right around the edge with the flower garden in the inside. We have tons of other hexagons, so I've got a bunch, or flowers from the hexagons. They're all done. My daughter picked out a lot of these. There go some of them, of like which fabrics should go with what. I had a, this was a Tula Pink True Colors, I think. Was it Tula Pink? I think it might have been. Like charm pack. And so she was like, well, that looks like the pollen. That looks like the inside of the flowers. So I've got a lot of flowers with that as the inside. I mean, just all kinds of fabrics in here. I've got a bunch done. I've got a bunch more that just need their petals sewn together. This is a project binder from Punky's Place. Punky Pearl on Etsy. She's also on Instagram. She's a stitcher, and she makes these great bags. A lot of people use these for their cross stitch. I usually use them for my English paper piecing projects. I've got a whole bunch more hexagons in here that they're attached to each other, but I need to sew up the petals. I usually go around and sew the 6 onto the center, and then I need to go up and sew the petals together. So I've got a bunch of those. This is one that my daughter is doing, and she wants that to be just hers. So I'm not sewing anything on it. I've got a bunch more picked out. So this quilt can continue to grow. See, I put a bunch of background squares in here, but I've got thread and my waxer and glue sticks and a pin cushion and thimble and everything I need in there. So my 2 English paper piecing priorities and focuses, it's foci, are the Marquise quilt kit and this. I never let too much time go by without putting some work in on each of these. I would love to get them both done this year. I don't know that that's going to happen, but it's only April. I've still got 8 months left. That would be pretty awesome. Might be a big ask. Certainly I want to at least have them like so far progressed that it's not too far into 2024 when I get those done. Okay. Those are my two focuses. I feel like I am hearing my math professors yelling at me for saying focuses. So something else, this is, at least at the moment, something I'm thinking of as a background piece. I just work on it sometimes when I get the bug. These are some really big apple cores. And again, I let my daughter cut a bunch of fabrics on the AccuQuilt for this. I had these like beachy fabrics I wasn't sure what to do with. And so we cut them into apple cores. I love the apple core shape. I am learning that it is tricky to sew. I don't know. I'm like, this is definitely a really good learning experience for me. It's a good thing I'm in the mood for like upping my skills and learning, because this has been a major learning experience. I still have some that need to be sewn on the bottom. I'm trying to get glue to actually stick to like trying to figure out how to do, because these get like appliqued excuse me, onto each other rather than doing a whip stitch like you would normally do with English paper piecing. I'm just finding like getting the hand angle and stuff very awkward. If anybody's done a lot of apple cores and has any tips, please feel free to let me know. Okay, I just took a class in this yesterday, so I'll go ahead and show this. You're gonna have to kind of, I have all my templates there. You'll have to look through my templates a little bit to see it. This is French General. This is their, what's it called? Bleu de France quilt. E-L-E-U. Oh no, Faience Blue. F-A-I-E-N-C-E B-L-E-U. I'll try to write it down below. But this is done with broderie perce. I think I'm saying that. I don't know if I'm saying it right. But I've never done broderie perce before. And all it is like appliquing, but you're using the picture in the fabric you've cut to be like the image you want. So like you, instead of using lots of little pieces of different fabrics to create a bird, you're just cutting out a picture of a bird from a piece of fabric and sewing the bird on to the background. But I've never done it, and this really appealed to me, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity. I've also, so I did this class with French General, and I've done French General classes before and generally had a good time and learned some new stuff. They're not optimal. They're done over Zoom, which I feel like sewing over Zoom is never optimal. But it's not awful either. I definitely picked up a lot of good information doing this. So they mailed the kit out to us. This is with their newest collection, Bleu de France, and I think that's their newest one. They mailed this out to us maybe a month or so ago, and month and a half ago. We had several weeks with it and with the instructions, and then we had a 2.5-hour class this past weekend with French General and the designer of the quilt, who her name is Lorraine Lovell. She's in Australia, I think, maybe New Zealand. She owns Hetty's Patch, if any of you have heard of that or shopped online with Hetty's Patch. Anyway, we had the materials ahead of time, and so I got started. It was one of those situations where I felt like I was going to get a lot more out of the conversation with the designer if I had already dived in. Why can't I speak today? I felt like it was important to dive in and work with materials and work through the instructions some before the class, in order to really get something out of the class and to know what questions I really had. So I'm not done with it, but this is going to be part of my block 1. So this big piece in the middle isn't fully sewn down yet. It's still mostly loose. And this piece, it doesn't even go there. It's going to go like more over here, but it's going to overlap this piece, so I can't put it on where it goes yet. this is going to go in the center of this block here. So this will get cut into a circle. And there's these really cool borders that I want to learn how to do. She went through that in the class, how to do it. Because it may not be like immediately obvious how she ends up doing that. She does it with a bias strip of fabric. So anyway, yeah, leading up to the class, I had put this together, and I've cut fabric for 2 of the blocks, the next 2 blocks. So this is block 1. I have it cut for blocks 2 and 3. So I'm gonna totally geek out over this. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you don't mind me geeking out over this quilt for a few minutes and like diving into the details. Just trying to put stuff in so it doesn't get lost. So there's a lot that I needed to figure out, and I'm learning with this quilt. So the way this is done is there's this like patchwork background of just these really big pieces of fabric that are sewn together, and then these different pieces are appliqued on top, and there's usually multiple levels of applique. Like this basket or flower pot is appliqued onto that white background, but then that white background is appliqued onto the blue background, right? And here it's a white background on a blue background on a gray background. There's like all these different levels of applique, and then a lot of the applique is done over the top of seams of the background once it's been pieced together. So I've done a good bit of applique. I don't want to overstate it, but I've done a good bit of applique. Not all of my applique projects are finished, but I've done a good bit. I really enjoy it. So I'm used to, cutting a block larger than its finished size, appliquing on it because that tends to like shrink and distort the fabric a little bit, and then trimming it to size. Well, like these pieces are like 20 inches by 20 inches and 14 by 20 inches, and they're pretty big, which I would find harder to like trim down. And I'm looking at this thinking, I don't know the best way to go about this. Right, obviously these pieces are going to be appliqued after the back's all done, so I can't trim anything down there, right? I just need to applique it on the background. I have to keep reminding myself that I know what I'm doing. Does anybody else ever feel that way? That I don't actually need to ask permission, that I can just like make a decision for myself and see how it works out. So I made the decision for this quilt to go ahead and sew together that background. There's only 11 pieces in it. There's 4 up there, 4 at the bottom, and 3 in the middle. Yeah, decided to just go ahead and sew together the background, and then I'll prepare all the applique pieces and then do it on the back as like one big piece. And I'm just going to have to live with whatever like shrinkages or distortions happen. I feel like for me and the skills that I know I struggle with, that's going to be less difficult or less troublesome than trying to trim down like a 20 by 20 inch block. And again, because I'm going to be dealing with it to some extent anyway from like these pieces, I'll just deal with it for all of them. So that's what I decided to do. So I went ahead and sewed my background. All this is like big patchwork pieces. That's all it is. I'm glad I did this though, because it turned out there was a problem with the math. The instructions we had for cutting these pieces was wrong. This centerpiece was supposed to be bigger than the instructions they gave us. So basically my middle row was narrower by 2 inches than it was supposed to be. Rather than ripping those seams apart, what I ended up doing was just tacking on a 1.5 inch cut strip on either side. Anyway, point is, it'll be fine. This is a very like organically put together thing. It'll end up looking fine in the end. This class kind of threw me initially. I guess still does I'll get there in the end. This is a good experience for me. But I'm used to following instructions for a quilt. And I modify things from time to time, but I'm used to following instructions for a quilt that are very specific, right? They'll say, you know, cut 4 of, like if it's an applique quilt, cut 4 of leaf shape B out of medium green print, right? It gets very, very specific. So when I initially saw this quilt, I'm thinking they're gonna tell me like exactly which fabrics, right, to like cut things from. It doesn't. Now for this first block, actually for the first 3 blocks, I went through the fabrics I had, which was a fat quarter bundle of this collection. I went through the fabrics I had and I tried to like match it up and do what the instructions say. But it actually sounds like what I need to do going forward is just go through all of my like big prints from the fat quarter bundle and just cut out interesting stuff. Cut out interesting pictures and then put them together, at least for some things. So like for the flower bouquet here and here, I need to just put together the elements however I want and not try to copy this. That's hard. That's really hard. But I'm looking forward to it because it's also growth for me. It's something that I haven't really done before. Don't necessarily consider myself good at. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. It feels a little bit freeing. So my next task, rather than cutting out a next block, is going to be to just like cut out cool, interesting shapes and pieces and whatnot. Yeah. Anyway, this is fun and exciting. And definitely, I don't have like a time I want it done by or anything, but it's something I'd like to be working on pretty consistently, you know, for the next, I don't know, couple of years until it's done. I don't want it to get like put away and forgotten about. All right, next I'm going to show you sorry if this is a little bangy, my chicken salad quilt. So, Lori Holtz is a quilt designer. She does these, I'm trying to see if I have a picture. I do. She does a lot of applique quilts. And she has she sells templates for her applique quilts, which is not usually the way I like to do things. I'm much more of a like fewer tools is better kind of person. Then she's kind of also just done the work for me of cutting out the templates, so I don't have to make them myself. Anyway, my son who loves chickens, we saw this and I was like, well, you're obviously getting a chicken salad quilt. I am doing it by hand. I'm doing needle turn applique. So this sew along finished up ages ago. It's been a while. I have 2 blocks done. The applique portion done. So I've got 1 chicken, a little baby chick, and another. That's all I have done so far. So I've got 10 more to go, and they have these borders on them. I've cut out all of the fabric for the patchwork parts. So once I get the applique blocks done, I'll, you know, be ready to just sew it together. This is kind of like what I was talking about, where the blocks are cut a little bit bigger. There's also, so Lori Holt gave each of these chickens a name, and she gives you the option to like embroider the name of the chicken on each block. We decided, well, my son and I decided that we're going to do that. When I'm done, I am going to embroider the chickens' names, but we've named them ourselves. We've taken our own family names and kind of looked at the chickens and decided which one has whose personality the most. And so I'll embroider names from our family on there. And I do have, one day while I was recovering from my surgery, I went through and I cut all of the fabrics for all of the other blocks. So, and I have the background fabrics all cut. So the next time I pick this up, I'm ready to just, you know, pin stuff in place and get going on it. That's kind of a priority. I don't know when it's going to be done, but it needs to be getting consistent work done on it if I want it to be done before my son decides he doesn't like chickens anymore. Sorry for the banging and wrestling. Okay. You guys bored yet? You sick of hearing me talking? Next, let's talk about Liberty of London. So Liberty fabrics are these, well, they're known for these Tana lawns. Not all Liberty fabrics out there are Tana lawns, but they're these very, like, fine, soft, lovely fabrics that you can use for quilting. They're also insanely expensive. And I love them, but I've also always felt, like, overwhelmed by them. They're so, there's nowhere near me where I can see them in person. And they're so expensive that I didn't want to try to kit up a project myself, basically. Like, I feel very intimidated by that with the lawns because I don't want to mess it up. And they work so great in, like, scrappy projects, but even, like, the thought of building a stash of Tana lawns that you can use in scrappy projects just strikes me as very overwhelming. May not be for a lot of you, it is for me. So, I, last year, found this company, Alice Caroline. I think they're in the UK, which is where Tana lawns are, that's where the company's based. And I signed up for a block of the month with Alice Caroline, which I haven't started. But, and I signed up for another block of the month this year, which I have actually started. Anyway, this, in the last, like, probably 6 months especially, I've really been diving into the attitude of using what I have. And not just using what I have, but, like, kind of like what I do with Chatelaine Wednesday, for those of you who follow me on FlossTube. It doesn't matter if it's really expensive and really precious. You're not enjoying it if it's just sitting on the shelf. Get into it, get going on it, start working on it. So I have this other kit from Alice Caroline, and I love how their stuff comes. So I have 12 of these boxes. I ordered this. This was done as a block of the month, but I ordered it after it was complete, so they just sent me all 12 boxes. They're adorable boxes. Anyway, I absolutely love how this was done. This is high on my radar. I think if I can get the Tulip Pink or the Grandmother's Flower Garden with my daughter done, this is going to become a priority after that. So this is just, it looks like, when it's done, it'll look like this. It's a Grandmother's Flower Garden with Liberty Tana lawns and Tilda fabrics. I mean, they couldn't have designed something better for me. I'm having so much fun, and I've, like, barely started this quilt. And I love how everything is done. So they send mostly, so I've got background, and I've got the fabric that goes, that's like the sashing. So I have larger cuts of the background and the sashing in each box, and then really small cuts. I mean, some of the fabrics that they sent, I only needed enough for a single hexagon. So it makes it very cost effective, right? Because I'm not even buying, like, fat quarters or something. They send only what you need for each of the, for, like, however many hexagons you have to make. And I'm loving it. I mean, I actually, the day this arrived, I broke into it, and that's not like me. I don't normally do that. But I've been so impressed with this kit. So this one's called Betsy's Bouquet. Like, inside, they give you an image of each of the Tana lawns and its history. Like, what it's based off of, when it was first printed, when it was brought back. It's amazing. And there's a cutting diagram cutting diagram for each fabric. So like, see these 4 fabrics, I only had like a tiny piece. Like I only had enough to cut. It was plenty. It was plenty for me to cut and to have a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. But you know, I wasn't a fat quarter. It was just a little square of fabric. This is awesome. I'm really enjoying this. This is going to be a very slow project. Sorry about the crinkle. There's tissue paper in there. Very slow project, but one that I am going to enjoy every moment of as I'm working on it. So I'm glad I made the decision to dive into that. Also, and this is entirely Laura at Lality Stitch's fault, so part of why I bought like this one, and I also ordered some stuff from Duckadilly Fabrics, which I'm not showing you today because I'm focusing on handwork today. If you haven't watched Lality Stitch's quilting videos, go watch them. She showed a quilt she did from a Duckadilly, I think it's Duckadilly Fabrics, block of the month, and it's in Tonalons, and I just went ahead and ordered it. It's so stunning. Blew me away. Almost done. You guys knew it wasn't going to be short because it was me, right? I'm going to show 3 more things I'm working on. I'm not going to remember. Let me see if this says the name of I bought a pattern online, and I didn't print enough of it. Helen Phillips. I'll try to remember to link it below. So I bought a quilt kit pattern online. It's a very simple quilt. Sometimes I'll see a quilt online that I know I could copy without having to buy it, but like, especially if it's like a small, like this was off of Etsy, especially if it's like a small designer, a small producer, I will go ahead and buy the pattern anyway, either just because for ease of doing it or just to be nice, right? Because like I could do it myself, but I was obviously inspired by this person, so I'm gonna send them their $5 for their pattern. And that was one of these situations. I don't have a picture of the quilt, but all it is it's just simple patchwork with hearts in the middle. And so I used the template, the heart template, and she gives you the background square, so I wouldn't have to figure out like what size heart and what size background square and all of that. And I went through my stash, and I'm using a palette. So the fabric or the quilts online just had like a palette of kind of soft pinks and blues, and so that's what I'm doing. I think I'm going to love this when it's done. And this is just like sometimes when I'm up here in my room and I'm in the mood to cut fabric, that's what I do. I just take some of these and I cut some hearts. Haven't gotten very far yet. I've got my tiny little heart template. I've got a bunch of hearts cut out, and you know, this will just be like a slow applique project. It might be going on for the next 80 years. Well, I'm 42, probably next 80 years. It might be going on for a long time, but that's okay. I'm enjoying the process of doing it. I have even more fabrics in here, and I'm gonna try to get them out. I've got more blues, especially in here, and I've got backgrounds. This is part of a backing. I tend to buy 3 yards of extra wide. Like when I see a backing I like, I'll order 3 yards of it, which is likely to be too much. But then I know I can at least back a king size quilt in it. And then the extra I just use for other stuff. So this was a Lori Holt backing that I used on a quilt I had quilted recently. So I'm actually using the background for the backing for a lot of stuff. So these are going to be, there's several fabrics that I'm using as backgrounds, and then lots of fabrics to cut up for hearts to applique on. So that's just fun. When I feel like cutting fabric. I like cutting fabric by hand. I like sitting down and just cutting hearts out of fabric. So anyway, that'll be sweet. Done one day. Another thing I have cut, but I haven't gotten any farther. Here's another one of those Band-Aid containers. I don't have much in here yet because I haven't started sewing this yet. Just got needles and waxer. I was watching the 3rd season of His Dark Materials. I don't know if any of you have watched that. I think it's on HBO. The books are amazing, but I read them years ago, and so I've mostly forgotten about like a lot of the plot. Anyway, really enjoyed watching that series with my husband. In the 3rd season, there is the Amber Spyglass season, I think. Pretty sure it's Amber Spyglass season. There's a quilt. It's a really simple patchwork quilt. In the background, it's thrown over a chair that the main character's mother is sitting on when they're in this like little cabin. Anyway, it's really simple. It's like a 16 patch, but most of those 16 squares are half square triangles. There's like a square thrown in every once in a while, kind of like a full square, as if like the person ran out of fabric, or I don't know. And then there's just a simple border in between them, and I just like sashing in corner squares, and I saw it and was like, I want to make that quilt. It was done in like kind of homespun-ish kind of fabrics and older fabrics. There might have been an antique quilt. So I went through my stash of Civil War repros, and I don't have any sewing done yet, but I did a lot of cutting and gluing. So my throat's starting to get iffy. I'm gonna have to be done soon. So the quilt was mostly like light and dark to make up a square, and then every once in a while it would just be like one of these thrown in. So I've got a bunch of these cut, and so this is another thing that I can sometime just like it's ready to go, and I can just start sewing. I also, so I bought this bag. This was the first one I bought at Steel City from Crafty U. I sewed it up and finished it like right away. I'm like obsessed with these bags that you can stitch on now. So anyway, that's what that's in. The last thing I have to show you, so this is gonna be like, oh, there's not a picture and I don't have my iPad. Stink. I don't have a way to show you. I'll try to link it below. They don't have a pic. Usually Paper Pieces has like a paper, or has a picture. I think what you're doing. So this is their Dahlia block. So if you go into Paper Pieces, there's like 3-inch, 4-inch, 8-inch blocks. Sometimes there's a 20-inch block. This is an 80-inch block, this Dahlia block. And it is basically like dozens of petals. It's these curved, like there's a center of the flower, and then it's like these curved, multiply pieced pieces coming out of the center. And it's stunning. This is like a lifetime quilt. I don't even, it's going to be amazing. I don't know if or when it's going to be done, but it's going to be amazing. So I went into my stash of Tilda fabrics and I pulled a whole bunch of fabrics for this. I'm doing mine kind of like a rainbow. So the petals at the closest to the center will be one color and then they'll change. So I'm starting with red at the center and then pink, purple, and it'll go through the rainbow as it goes out to the edges of the flower. It feels very overwhelming. So I'm going to have this 80-inch flower when I'm done that presumably then I will applique onto a background. I can't even imagine doing that, but I guess that's how you have to do it. It's going to be a challenge, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I don't entirely have my fabric set in stone yet, but here's like the rest of the rainbow. The outer edge I'm going to do in that white. I'm just, I think I need to fill out my greens more. Oh no, I think I found these greens and was like, oh, I might need to throw those in to be able to fill it out. So it won't necessarily, so like, when you're looking at a round of this flower, so these are 2 different fabrics. So there's 11 layers of petals from the inside to the outside. And then there's like 24 all the way around, I think. So I need to do 24 of these like 40-inch arcs to go all the way around the circle of the flower. So I don't have enough of either one of these to do one of those layers, but if I use both of these and alternate them, I have enough. So that's the plan. That's how I'm going to kind of get enough fabric, and I think it'll just create more interest visually in the quilt. So I have the first 3 layers, although I think I did discover I'm missing one of the papers. You can reuse papers. It's just, this is so big and it's going to be around for so long. I don't want to, but I will. So anyway, this is, I was in a cutting mood recently. I get in a cutting mood a lot, I think. And I got some of the cutting done for that. I think that's it. I feel like my throat's getting scratchy. These pieces. Some of these pieces are huge. Look at these. These are like some of the outermost pieces. It's, if I ever manage to complete this project, it's going to be out of this world. Okay. Thanks for sticking with me. As far as plans go, I do have a couple of quilts on the sewing machine that I want to finish up in the next couple of weeks. I couldn't show you today because they're in the wash, but I did finish 2 quilts and 2 table runners yesterday. I got the 2 quilts bound, and I got 2 table runners quilted and bound because I quilted the table runners myself. So those are done. And I finished the quilt top for my oldest son, and I took that to the long armor last week. 2 weeks ago? Maybe 2 weeks ago. So before that one's ready to pick up, which will probably be a few weeks, I want to finish, if possible, 2 more quilt tops. I have a Lone Star quilt that just needs the borders put on, although the borders do include curved piecing, so it's like more than just like sewing on some straight pieces. I'd love to get that done because it's also been languishing for far too long. And I have a really simple half square triangle quilt that I have most of the rows already assembled, and I just need to assemble 3 more rows and then sew the rows together. So that, I think, should be doable. As far as handwork goes, my absolute priorities for this year are pretty easy right now. The chicken salad quilt for my son needs to be getting consistent work. The Tula Pink Marquise kit, the grandmother's flower garden that I'm doing with my daughter, and the Christmas quilts that I tried to show you downstairs, but I didn't pull the book, so you don't really see what it looks like. But I just have to applique that one panel. Okay, thanks guys for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think. Feel free to leave questions or comments down below. And anyway, I'll hopefully see you soon.